All right, so let's get started. As you can see in the top right hand corner here, I have my reference images just in case I need to just peek back at my train. I'm using PureRef. This is a free software which is just very useful for having reference images overlaid on your screen. So yeah, and also these reference images will be available for you to download just in case you want them for yourself. So we can get started by deleting the default cube by pressing X to delete. And then I will press Shift A and add in a mesh and a cylinder. So we'll create the front part of the train by selecting our cylinder here, tabbing into edit mode like so, and then pressing R, X, and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the X axis. As I've mentioned in many of these videos, I am using the tilde key to navigate the different perspectives. So that is the key above the tab key. But if you have a numpad, then you can switch perspectives using those numbers. So we can start by making this front part of the train, and it has a very interesting design. So just make sure to follow along because it can be kind of confusing how to actually do it. But the way I like to do it is first by going into face select by pressing the 3 key on my keyboard, and then pressing E to extrude to mark this part of the train where it overhangs. I'll go into bottom view like so and select a few faces, making sure that they're symmetrical. So I'll select about here, and that is 3 faces away from the very edge. So 1, 2, and I just need to deselect this one here. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, you can see. And then I will press X and delete faces like so. Then I want to have a cutoff similar to this region here on the back face here. So the way I can do that is just to select this vertex here and this vertex here. And this is something that I've learned quite recently, but press the J key to join them, or to, I guess, make them connected. And this is different from the fill key as it actually connects these two vertexes, which I thought was quite cool. And then I can select this face and press X to delete. Cool. Then what I'll do is select this edge. Whoops, I'll select these 3 edges here. So this one, shift select this one, and shift select this one. And going into top view, what I'll do is press E to extrude, right click, and then press S to scale outwards like so. I don't want this region poking out too much, so I will select this vertex here, press Shift S, cursor to selected, and then pressing the full stop or the period key on my keyboard, I can bring up the different pivot points, and I'll turn it to cursor. If that didn't work for you for some reason, just go to the top here and select 3D cursor. Then I'll select this vertex here and this vertex here, going into top view, and then press S, Y, and 0, just so that it is perfectly aligned with its neighboring vertices. And then I'll press the full stop key and go back to medium point. So we can continue on by, I guess, selecting this edge here and this edge here, and then pressing E to extrude downwards like so. Now I could fill in all of the faces like so, like just filling it down here. However, I believe that will be too many vertices or too much geometry. So I think having overlapping faces in this instance will be fine. We're not trying to make a overly technical model, so just doing something like this is fine. Cool. And then we can just continue creating the rest of this region of the train. So I'll select all of these vertexes here, or the edges I should say. Excuse me, my English is all over the place. I'll press G and Z to bring it down a bit, and then press E and Y to bring it forward like so that it is in front of the train. And then I will press E and Z to bring it down like so. All right. Then what I'll do next is just press Ctrl R and bring it up to about here, I would say. And now we can start giving this platform region a bit of thickness. So the way that I best found to do it was by using the F2 add-on. And if you don't have that enabled, go up to Edit, Preferences, and in the add-on section here, type in F2 and the Mesh F2 add-on will appear. I have used this in a previous tutorial, but if you skip that, that's completely fine. But it is a very useful tool where if you just press F in between two two faces, or I mean two perpendicular edges, you will be able to get a fourth vertex, which will give you a quad. But before we do that, let me just make a slight adjustment by selecting this face here, pressing X to delete faces, and then doing something similar to what we previously did. Select this vertex and press Shift S, cursor to selected, and then change the pivot point to 3D cursor. And then just select these vertexes here and press S, Y, and 0, just so that this region here is also flat. Cool. Then I can just start filling in the region around here. Do it for here. Select this vertex, press F to fill, and we will just do this around the entire region here. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but yeah, we'll just not name it, I guess, for now. And I did make a bit of a mistake, so we actually don't want this whole region to be filled in here. As you can see, it is just a thick plane of metal going around, and it's not like this huge slab. So I'll just delete these two faces here. And then what I'll do is press Ctrl R and bring it to about here. I want this entire edge loop to just be straight, so I'll just press S, Y, and 0. Whoops. Making sure that I'm in medium point. I'll press S, Y, and 0. And then I'll press G and Y to bring it to about here. And now we can start filling in this region like so. Select it here. Like so. Press F to fill, F to fill, F to fill, like so. All right, so we have actually completed a fairly significant part of the train. This always was quite tricky for me to figure out when practicing this tutorial, but I'm glad that it didn't take nearly as long as it was in the practice runs. So we can move on to this region here. And I guess part of the principle of this tutorial is to start off with basic shapes and then add in some detail. So in edit mode, we can actually add in a separate shape. So I will press, well, first of all, I'll select this face here and press Shift S, cursor to selected. And then I'll press Shift A to add in a separate mesh, and we will add in a plane, like so. And then press R and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis. And then what I'll do is press E to extrude back, like so. I will also select this face here, and then press G and Z to just bring it down a little bit. And since this is a separate object, I can press L to just select the entirety of this separate mesh here, and then press S and X to scale it on the X-axis, just so that it is thicker than this first part here. Then I like to add in this little platform thing. Again, I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but yep, this little metal platform thing is just a nice touch to add. And usually I just add it as a separate object. So with this bottom face selected, press Shift D to duplicate, right click to clear its position, and then press S to scale out. Go into front view, just see how that looks, and then press E to bring down like so. Cool. I think I will just minorly adjust the size of this. So I'll just go into X-ray mode by pressing, or wireframe mode I should say, by pressing the Z key on my keyboard. Box select everything, and then press G and Y to just make this a little less fat. I might adjust this several times in the tutorial. This is just how I am. I always just, change things as I go. Then to have this curved roof, what we can do is press Ctrl R and right click, leave it in the center, and then press G and Z to bring it up like so. It's quite high, but this usually gets flattened because what we will be doing is beveling this edge loop. So Alt right click this edge loop here, and then press Ctrl B to bevel like so. And scroll up on your mouse wheel until you get something that you are happy with. So I'll say here is fine, and that looks good. And then we have a little bit of a roof as well at the top of our thing of, I guess, this compartment where the steam engine runner guy goes. I can't remember what they're called. Conductor? Is that what they're called? It's been a while since I've watched Thomas the Tank Engine. But anyway, what we can do is select these faces here. So just select this face here, control click to this face here, and we'll do the same for the back. So shift click this one, and then control click this one here. Go into top view, and then press E to extrude, and then press S and Y to scale outwards. Whoops, I did not do that properly. So let's do that again. E to extrude, S and Y to scale outwards, like so. And that looks pretty good, I would say. And then for the sides, select these faces here by just shift clicking. And then press E to extrude, S and X this time. Not too much. And then press G and Z, making sure that it follows that natural curvature that we already have. So I'd say that looks pretty good, but let me just bring out even less. So G and Z. And there we go. There we go. That looks quite good. And I guess what we can do, even though I said not to add in too much detail at the start, sometimes I can't help myself. And we can actually add in the little, I guess, compartment box here. So press Ctrl R for the edge loop. And then what I like to do is press S, Z, and 0 to scale it to 0 on the Z axis. And then press Ctrl B to bevel it. Except we're just going to bevel it once and just split this vertex, or this edge loop I should say. I'll press G and Z to move it up like so, and I would say that looks pretty good. And then I will select this face here and the corresponding face on the other side, and press I to inset like so, holding down Shift to slow down the movement. Then what I can do, I'll press S and Y to kind of scale it in like so. And then what I'll do is press Ctrl E to bring up all of these different options and select bridge edge loops like so. So I think that looks pretty good. And then what I usually like to do is just press I to inset and press E to extrude downwards, just so that I guess the train conductor can stand. So it's looking good so far, and the next part that we can add in is this little compartment here. I think it's called the caboose because it's the last section of the train. So we can just tab into edit mode, and then, tab into edit mode, and press Shift A to add in our cube. All right, and then I'll press G and Y to move it back like so. And again, I'm just taking a quick sneak peek at my reference image. It's always good to know what you're doing. And I'll just move it to about here. I think that looks good. And then for this region, press G and Y to bring it back like so. And I can just press Ctrl R and then press Ctrl B to bevel like so. And then we can select this face here and press E to extrude upwards like so. I feel like I say like so a lot, but yeah, just habit. Then press Shift D to duplicate this part and press Y to move it over like so. Again, bad habit I think, or is it? Maybe it's not. It's just a filler word. Press S to scale and I will just move it. And for this compartment, it can get a lot thicker. So just press S to scale out and X to scale on the X axis. Or, let me leave it so that there's a healthy amount of room. Cool. Maybe I'll just make this compartment a bit smaller, because I know in the reference image this part is lower, but I think it'd actually be better if they were all on the same level. Again, that could be subject to change knowing me, but for now, that's what I'm looking to do. Cool. And again, these are very simple shapes, so there's not much to it, but select this face here, Control click this face here, and then press X, delete faces, just so that it has an open top. Cool. There's a few more basic elements that we will add before going into higher detail. So tab into edit mode once again,